here with myself, Anna. I'm here with the Fingal County Council Mayor. And hello, Mayor. As earlier in the meeting today, we heard about the vacant housing in the Fingal area. There are at the moment 132 vacant houses only in Fingal.
Yes.
Do you think it's a national problem in general?
Well, there are always vacant houses because people move out of houses for all sorts of reasons. Now, if it's somebody moving permanently out of a house, then the first thing that the council has to do is secure that house to make sure that nobody can get into it and squat in it. So if you're driving around, you'll see sometimes houses boarded up or with steel shutters on them. But we have to do this because otherwise these houses could be entered and vandalised. And then we have to assess the houses before we can rent them out again. They have to be brought up to a certain standard. We have to make sure that the insulation, if there need new windows or doors, if there are dangers in the house, suppose somebody put down tiles that are slippy, they would have to be taken up. So the house has to be restored.
There are obviously a lot of families who are waiting for a house, and
Yes.
do you think maybe that refurbishment is taking a little too long sometimes?
Well, it does, but unfortunately it takes, it takes on average maybe, we try to do it in say 25 weeks, which might seem long, but you must remember that when we secure the house, once we establish what work has to be done on it, we actually have to put that out to tender, and that's part of a procurement process. And then the contract is awarded and somebody does that work, and then once the work is completed, then we move somebody from the housing list into that house. And sometimes this does take longer than 25 weeks depending on the work that's needed. And the other reason sometimes you see boarded up houses and vacant houses is because it may be an elderly person has been taken into hospital and they may be in hospital for a while. And if they're going to be out of the house for a while and there's nobody to look after, then we would also have to secure the house as well to make sure that it wasn't damaged. And and we can't give away that house because somebody is in hospital, so we have to wait and see if they're going to move back into it. Yes.
So do you think maybe that number at the moment is 132? It might decline in the rest of the year, or it's going to stay around the same because of the problems and issues that you mentioned?
No, it will decline because sometimes, again, because of the way these things happen, sometimes you have more than others. And you heard in the report there today that there was sort of 80 at the end of the year that were carried over from last year. So sometimes it's down to maybe 60 or 70. But as they said in there, there's always every month there's one house vacant. Sometimes on average, but sometimes some months it could be 10 houses would become vacant. And I know it's very frustrating for people to see boarded up houses, but having heard the explanations many times from our housing department, I can understand why it has to take sometimes 25 weeks for 20 weeks for the work to be done. So that's just the way it happens. And sometimes the people who are complaining are people who are living near those houses and say, well, my daughter wants a house, why can't she have that house? But
it's been empty for a while, yeah.
Yes, but of course the daughter can't have the house. It has to be the person off the top of the housing list that gets the house. So that's a problem. But you must remember, we have 4,500 council houses in Fingal, and if we have 80 every year, that's only that's a very.
So do you think is there a need to build more houses and more county councils to put the families into them, rather than wait for the houses that need to be refurbished?
Well, that is a big problem, and that's why there was a lot of debate there as well, because we have 6,000 people on our housing list. If you go on the list today, you will wait almost 10 years to be housed by the council. So there's two aspects to this. One is that the old pattern was the local authorities would build a special social housing estate, and to some extent the criticism of that was that it caused segregation. So all social housing tenants were living in one area. In recent years, what they've tried to do is to put their tenants in ordinary private estates, so that they would have 2 or 3 houses in every estate, and that people would given a house and be housed in these estates, and that the children wouldn't grow up being stigmatised by living in a council estate. The problem with that is that you're depending on buying or renting those houses from the private sector, and there's a real issue with property owners not wanting to rent houses to social housing tenants, because I suppose there would be a perception that there would be more damage caused to those houses than by ordinary tenants, which is not true, because you can have all sorts of tenants in your house. But it has been difficult for the council to lease or rent houses from the private sector. So the other option then is when new housing estates are being built, that we would go and we would buy a number of houses in those estates. And there was a scheme before, during the boom, whereby if you were building, say, for every 100 houses you were building, you had to give 20% of them to the local authority, that we would buy them off the developer. And there's a review of that scheme now, but it worked quite well at the time.
Okay.
And that would be, but that depends on building starting again. So if building starts again, we would be able to get more houses, but it would
there
take...
are obviously a lot of issues within the problem itself.
Yes, and it's very complicated, but and very costly, because I don't believe that social housing should be for life. The traditional thing was that once you got a council house, you had it for life, and you only had to pay 11% of your income, and that's rent. But that meant that you were effectively, you'd taken up that house forever.
Of course, yeah.
And not available to anyone else. So.
Well, thank you very much for that, Mayor. That's all the time we have for today. That's DC News, Fingal County Council, Swords.